This is Entrepreneurs Get Visible, the podcast for people who want more impact, influence, and income. I'm Anna Parker-Naples, and I'll be sharing with you proven methods from leading entrepreneurs that help you get visible as an authority in your field. Because anything's possible when you get visible. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Entrepreneurs Get Visible. Although, if you are listening on a podcast player, it may well be morning, so just edit that bit out in your mind. I'm actually delivering this live tonight because I'm bringing in someone very special to talk to you. And the reason I'm bringing her in right now is that I have been supporting this wonderful person to launch their podcast. But she is more than just a guest. She is more than just a client. Niyc is actually one of my mentors at the moment. So I'd love to bring in, who has been on the show before, if you've been listening for a while, I'd love to introduce you tonight to Niyc Pidgeon, who is an incredible coach who helps female coaches to build 6- and 7-figure businesses, but with this amazing integrative style of bringing positive psychology to the forefront of her work. So welcome, Niyc, to Entrepreneurs Get Visible.
So good to be back.
So good to be back. Only a special handful make it back. So I think you were actually on the show at approximately just before we did episode 100, and we're now about to hit 200 in the next few weeks. So there's been, if someone is new to listening to this show, then they'll have missed a whole bunch of good stuff. They might not know about you. So what didn't I say about you in the intro that you kind of think, I wish she'd said that? What's the bit?
that I've got an amazing podcast too.
So Niyc now has. We are, if you're listening to this later, Niyc's show has been live and is probably charting everywhere around the world because Niyc has an incredible following who will be supporting her, and Niyc will become one of the leading podcasts around the world in business and entrepreneurship. I'm 100% confident of that. We actually launched the show on Friday night and we're recording this on Monday night. It actually went out of the door early in Apple, which is one of the risks we take with launching a podcast. So tell us a bit about your show.
So the Unstoppable Success podcast is supporting people all over the world with how they live with more joy, more personal power, and unstoppable success within themselves and their businesses. So it's very on brand, on mission. It's so fulfilling for me to get this work out into the world. And what I love about the podcast, and actually this is one of the things that's come through all of the reviews, Anna, I love that it's super short, sharp episodes. And one of the reviews I read yesterday said they called it micro episodes. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was such a cool term because rather than needing to sit there and listen for like 2 hours, they're like 13 minutes or 17 minutes. So you can get what you need really, really quickly. And just with everyone being so busy and having so much going on, I think that's like a really refreshing thing.
Well, listeners to my podcast are really used to me coming in with high energy, lots of delivery and get out, because I personally don't like a whole load of ramble. I like to make sure that anything I listen to is useful to me and I get the results and the value. And I think that's one of the things that's really struck me about your delivery in your podcast. You aren't holding it back. You do help people build incredible businesses. You work with, incredible mentors yourself. And actually, I think what's powerful about podcasts is that we can actually teach people the real stuff. People who can't afford to access us yet and can't afford to access you yet actually can learn it all from your podcast. It is amazing to be able to do that. And I know that when we started working together to discuss what your podcast was going to be like, you were really determined that it brought to the fore the positive psychology that runs as a through vein. I don't even know if that's a phrase or I just made it up, but we're going to go with it. The through vein, the vein through, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Through all of your work. Tell us a little bit about that. For listeners who don't know you, don't know about positive psychology, what is that?
Well, I'm totally biased, but it's literally the best place to have a career, because as well as it being a business or part of my job or part of the things that I teach, Pos Psych is actually something that is a massive journey of personal growth too. So it's the science of happiness and it's the science of success. And it's really the evidence-based understanding of how individuals, businesses, and communities thrive. So as well as teaching strategy and tactics and tools, every single thing that I do, as well as the way that I show up and the way that I do life and business, it all has this positive psychology kind of current running through it. And what I've seen over the last few years is that this has become more normalized and more mainstream than ever before. So PosPsych has only been around since the year 2000, and I've actually been working in the field since 2010. So when we're recording this, 11 years, which is still like a really, really short space of time, but it means I've had a lot of experience of putting these tools into action for myself and also for many, many clients I work with too.
So to give you guys context, I work with Niyc. I'm actually in one of her masterminds at the moment. And what I love about your work is that no matter how tough something might be, we're very open. And I love that gentle nature, being able to explore what's really going on, not always having to rock up with, everything is great in my life, but being able to share things are tough right now. You will always come back to, okay, what is it? What is it you can find that you can be grateful for? And that simple, just remembering even that gratitude is available at all times can actually be a trigger to unlock loads of stuff. What was it that led you to that work in the first place?
Well, originally I was supposed to be an engineer. So it wasn't.
According to who?
According to my dad, and according to, I thought that was going to be a really good area for me to have a career in, because I love cars, still do now. And I thought it was going to make me a lot of money. And by a lot of money, I meant 30 grand in a year. That was my goal. So I wasn't a person that had always had this psychology thing going on from when I was a kid. I didn't even study it at high school. So it was one of those subjects you could choose, and I didn't choose it. But then when I shifted and I changed my career direction back in 2005, I decided I really wanted to do something where I can learn about human behavior, because that was something I got really interested in, but also something that I could create a huge impact in. So I changed my career degrees from studying mechanical and automotive engineering at university to psychology with sport, and then did a teaching qualification so that I could go and lecture in colleges and universities, and then my master's degree as well. So I was in uni studying this stuff for 5 years by the end of it. And then after that, went on and led coaching, talks, created my own courses. So it's been a real adventure into the science.
And is this really a way to bring happiness into lives? Is that really at the foundation of positive psychology?
Absolutely. It's teaching us how we can feel better more of the time without needing to drop into a place of toxic positivity. Mm-hmm. So you touched on something before about our coaching together in the elite. And it's not a case of come on, just be happy. It's all right. It's more of an allowing and an understanding and an acknowledgement that all of the emotions that we experience as humans are not just valid, but they're also valuable. So we notice that when there is a time of big emotion, a breakdown, if you like, then that's often a breakthrough. We're looking for what actually is the growth in those experiences and what is the lessons and the blessings that we can get from that. And then once we've honored our process, then we're looking at, okay, how can we realign to take what we've got, because we all have tools and resources. And rather than complaining and blaming about the situations that we find ourselves in, looking at, okay, what can I do from this point in? It is what it is. How can I look for the lessons, look for what's good, and rally and move forwards, knowing that now actually I've grown and actually I have more than I had before this experience rather than less.
To put that into context for some listeners, so I'll share parts of something that I've experienced whilst I've been working with you. I'm trying to decide how much I'm going to share on the podcast. So I've had a couple of launches over the last 12 months they've done well. And compared with me 3 years ago, they were wonderful and exceptional. But me right now were not the growth level I was expecting or had invested in ads to make them happen. That didn't make them a failing. That didn't make them failures. But it made me stop and question, what am I doing? And then the self-doubt crops in. Am I going in the right direction? Am I not good enough at this? All of those imposter syndrome things that you who listen to the podcast often know I talk about. And I understand this stuff from an LP perspective, a mindset perspective. But being able to show up and share those and have that question come back, not just from you, but the whole group that you've created, that group dynamic's very powerful in the right kind of mastermind. Have that come back to me and say, well, actually, if this was a good thing for you, which at the time I was really resistant to, if this is a good thing for you, what would be the learning? And if actually what you were promoting or selling actually doesn't fit you, what would that look like? And what could be the decisions you make consequently? Now, for me, what that's meant is that I have the podcast membership and I have courses that I run, but I've now developed two very strong high-end levels of my business with the podcast agency, with our production consultancy arm, and with the podcast booking boutique that's coming shortly. And part of that was kind of going, I think I'm speaking to many of the wrong people. Many of my clients are, of course, the right people, but I think my message isn't hitting home because it's too grand. And so who do I need to be in order to get to my next level? And it's incredibly powerful. What has been the biggest difference that you think positive psychology has brought to coaching as a whole, or certainly the way that you coach?
I think, I mean, even with that example that you shared, it's just been really beautiful to see how like things have skyrocketed because you are literally so crazy in demand that people are like, Anna, I want to work with you. Like, please, like, can we do it? And I know you've got people like waiting and they're all lined up to work with you. So it's such an example of positive psychology in action and really trusting yourself first. I feel like in coaching, there's, for me, positive psychology is really an umbrella to everything. So whether it's coaching or your health or your relationship or your business or your money, positive psychology really like wraps through it all. And it gives us the opportunity to have a new perspective and show up with a different version of ourselves so that things are more enjoyable, things are more fulfilling, and we get more of a sense of accomplishment through everything that we do. So I see in coaching that, I mean, coaching's such a great career to be involved in because it commands us to hold ourselves accountable to a higher level. And as coaches, we really have to be living the work that we are teaching. And if we're not showing up and we're not putting tools like positive psychology into action, or tools like spiritual practice into action, or doing our subconscious work, we're not going to be able to hold a container that is powerful enough, strong enough, like expansive enough for our clients to grow. So I see the positive psychology tools as being fundamental for us as coaches. And what I've also seen is the power of the ripple effect that extends outwards when the coach or the client puts these tools into action, and really recognizing and acknowledging that it's not just yourself that you're helping. It's not just your client that you're helping. It's a tool that you're giving to someone or you're passing on to someone that they then implement into their lives, and they go and implement it and give it to other people too. So seeing kids that are impacted by positive psychology and coaching is one of my favorite things.
Well, you don't have to talk to me about that ripple effect. For me, that's entirely what I see in my work. You guys listening to this today, that somewhere, somehow, by listening to a podcast or listening to someone's story, you're going to change your own life, change the way you behave, even if it's just once, which then in fact impacts your family, your children, the outer world. So you've got a program coming in the not too distant future that will be embodying this work. And I think it's something that it just doesn't exist in the coaching market at the moment. One of the challenges with coaching and so many people coming into the online space and being coaches and are coaches is some of that, as you mentioned before, can be quite toxic. And one of the challenges in our industry is those of us who are very mission-led, genuinely want to make a change, want to make a difference, want to make an impact, are coming up against coaches who are perhaps in their own integrity, but out of our integrity, that they don't necessarily have the right ethics, the right morals. What do you see in terms of the program that you're bringing? What do you see the shift coming as a result of that?
I'm literally, honestly, I'm loving doing the work on this. There's been so much that's going on behind the scenes. So the positive psychology coach certification, it's really a commitment to create something that is a gold standard in our industry. We're going to be certifying coaches in the positive psychology tools and interventions, and also making sure that we are creating amazing leaders who are doing good work and they're practicing with ethics, they're practicing with integrity. So a lot of the nuances that I see in coaching and I experience, whether it's in sales or whether it's with actual client, like in the client relationship, a lot of it has been understood through the personal work that I've done on myself, but also through my decades worth of experience. And how can you expect a new coach to come into the industry and have it all figured out? You can't. So what I want to do with this certification is really equip and arm more coaches to feel confident and be able to show up and create results for their clients, obviously grow amazing businesses and feel confident for themselves too, but do it with a really, really awesome standard, something that people can be really proud of, to be a positive psychology certified coach. So there's been a lot that's going into it. And actually what I'm loving, Mel and I, so one of my friends and ex-clients actually, so she came through our accelerator mastermind. She's a badass. So she's like certified in positive psychology and strengths and everything. And we're now practicing the tools on ourselves. So we're like getting together and we're like, right, should we do a best possible self together? Or should we do a strengths assessment and see how we work together? And it's bringing all of this like fulfillment up for me as well. So I'm excited for these coaches to go through the personal journey and transformation, as well as actually getting the certification and the piece of paper at the end of it.
I think what's coming up for me as you talk about that is that this work is never done. You don't just do a course, you know about positive psychology, well, that's it, done. I've got the certificate, done. This is work as individuals that we are having to, and I don't really mean having to, choosing to do over and over again and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's that phrase that the work is never done, the work is always beginning. There is no completion. There is no point when you go, I know all about happiness now, I'm done. Because the experience of being human means that we do have things that happen in our lives, the ups, the downs, the bits in between, the sadness, the grief, the loss, the frustration, the anger. And you can actually choose how you experience those things. There was a phrase that we were talking about the other day that keeps coming back to me, which is about hippo time, about allowing yourself to sit in what's happened for a while without having to put that false mask on of everything's okay. Because sometimes by sitting in it, that's where you actually have the biggest growth. You realize, okay, this is uncomfortable for me. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be disappointed so that I can choose the next thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I always think as well, like, if you want to just make a ton of money and like peace out, don't be a coach, right? You can make fantastic income being a coach, but it has to be something that you love and something that you're committed to. Because for me, the coaches that are coming through our programs are like in this for life. So it's like, you better get used to personal mastery and you better get used to running a successful business. And you better get used to being at the edge of your comfort zone. And you better get used to being on a steep learning curve, because this is your life now when you choose to be a coach. It's not just a job. It's not just a business. It is literally a life.
That is an amazing way for me to kind of just segue back into being on the edge and pushing your comfort zones, which is exactly what you've been doing this week, Nick, getting the Unstoppable Success podcast out there. Talk to my listeners a little bit about how that's been for you just over the last 3 days.
Well, I love when I don't remember if I messaged you or voice noted you. I'm like, Anna, just to let you know, the podcast has gone live, and it was literally like a week early. So we were in this conversation of like, do we go for it or do we kind of hide away and like wait and like plan a little bit more? And we both decided, we were like, right, let's go for it. Let's do it. And I'm really, really glad that we did that, because even though it felt scary and I felt like I wasn't ready, that is what like unstoppable success is all about. And done is always going to be better than perfect. So it's definitely been a series of brave decisions, because having a podcast in general, like, I think I thought it was just going to be like, oh, it's just another thing that I'm doing. Like, I've done all of the stages and everything, but it's actually really, really personal, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I was going to say, you thought that and then you met me.
Yeah, it's so personal and it's so like I'm in my closet, like recording these stories and teachings, and it's literally like I'm like connecting with one person. So because of that, it feels really, really important. And I'm loving seeing all of the stories and all of the feedback. And it's actually crazy, Anna, because a lot of the reviews that are coming in, like, especially because you use code names when you're on like Apple doing reviews, I don't know who these people are. A lot of them I do, but a lot of them I don't. So it's really, really humbling to see that all of you guys have been doing this work and you've just been like doing it behind the scenes and creating this positive change for yourself. So I'm like in gratitude, crying, like reading all of these amazing reviews and just enjoying the process and really honoring, like looking after myself doing it as well, because it is a lot. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. What I loved about you sharing that, Nick, is that, you know, you have a phenomenal business. You're a very well connected young lady. And I can say that because I'm much older than you. But you still have that sense of sometimes we put the work out there and we don't get the immediate feedback and immediate validation, particularly not from people who haven't signed up to work with our programs or work on our packages. And actually getting that feedback back in such a powerful way that I've been watching you for a long time. I read your emails, I've seen your lives, and now I've been waiting to be able to hear you in this format. There's something quite special about getting that validation back. So
it's super special. And I just love that so many people have said, I've been waiting for this podcast for so long. It's a really good like confirmation that this is like a perfect new adventure to be on together.
So you guys, if you are listening to this on the podcast, the very next thing I'm going to let you do, rather than listening to any more Entrepreneurs Get Visible podcast episodes today, is to go and find Nick's podcast, Unstoppable Success. You can't miss it. It's the bright lime green one. That is the one you're looking for. And please go and like, subscribe, download, play, send her a review because Nick loves them. If you are watching this as I'm recording this and we're doing a live broadcast on Facebook and LinkedIn, then I'm going to be sharing with you on the screen the giveaway. Nick has an incredible giveaway, which is only open for another week. So if you're listening on the podcast, you may well have missed it. But if you go to www.unstoppablesuccess.com/podcast giveaway, you could bag yourself over $1,000 worth of kit, including an iPad, some Bose headphones and Blue Yeti and loads of other stuff, including a copy of Nick's book. Now is your chance. I was going to call it Now Is Your Time. It's Now Is Your Chance.
Now is chance.
Correct. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Nick, and huge congratulations on the success of your show. We've been delighted to have you back.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Entrepreneurs Get Visible. To get your free checklist on how to raise your profile and to find out about our community, go to annaparkernaples.co.uk/get visible.